And back now with more of the wildfires tearing through Southern California. Of course, the first priority is putting out the flames. But how do we prevent the next disaster? Let's bring in my guest tonight, Chris Barnard, the president of the American Conservation Coalition. He's up late with me tonight on the Final Five. Chris, good to see you again. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
So we've heard two trains of thought here, I think, over the last 24 to 48 hours. One side saying this is climate change in action. Another side saying this is negligence. This is poor forestry management. So where does the truth lie here, or is a little bit of everything?
I would say it's a little bit of everything, but I would say it's actually primarily negligence compounded by increasing temperatures and drought. You have a Forest Service Department, both at the national level and in California, that has just completely neglected to take care of our forests, to do the necessary steps to reduce wildfire risk. And then if you compound that with increasing temperatures, historic droughts, then you get these kinds of wildfires, and it's extremely tragic. And we need to quickly figure out how to move forward so that these people don't get impacted like this in the future. So
what I'm curious, when you talk about forestry management here, I remember back years ago when there was the fire in one of the previous wildfires in California that destroyed the town of Paradise. And then President Trump, now President-elect Trump, said something to the effect of, you know, they're not sweeping the forest floor or something to that effect. And he got a lot of flack for saying something like that. Is what he said at the time, is that sort of a broad way of talking about better forestry management, or what's really the path to achieving that?
President Trump was absolutely correct. He said it back then a few years ago. He said it very recently on the Joe Rogan podcast. What we need to be doing is we need to be managing our forests proactively. That means raking out the dead leaves and the dead underbrush that acts as tinder for these fires. It means doing prescribed burns to reduce the potential for a wildfire to spread very quickly. It also means thinning the forest where appropriate to make sure that these are healthy, vibrant ecosystems, not tinderboxes waiting to be just lit up. And the reality is that environmentalists and far-left progressives have actually been the ones pushing back against this, whereas we know that for millennia, indigenous communities have been the ones managing forests these ways. And so President Trump got a lot of flack for it, but he was right. And I think the people in California wish they'd listened to him now.
Chris, when you look right now at where things stand, and there's been, again, a lot of blame assigned in different places. Some people have said the mayor of Los Angeles shouldn't have left when she did to go on a trip to Ghana. People have said it's Governor Gavin Newsom's fault. Again, the president-elect had said something about some sort of water management agreement that water officials in California say they don't have any knowledge of ever coming across the governor's desk there. But what can be done right now? Because again, this continues to happen. I mean, this is nature. Wildfires are a natural occurrence. So how do you mitigate that risk right out of the gate from here? Or is this something that's going to take a lot of work to achieve?
Well, the sad reality is that actually this was a little bit of a comedy of errors just compounded over years. In the last year, the LA mayor, Karen Bass, she actually cut the budget for the city fire department, and now they're not able to do what they need to do to protect their citizens. Over the last 5 years in California, Gavin Newsom has spent $24 billion on homelessness, and he's presenting a budget of just $1 billion over 5 years to help prevent these wildfires. What's happening right now is thousands of more people are becoming homeless as a result. And so there's just a gross mismanagement of priorities. And what we need to start doing is actually understanding the historic risk associated with these wildfires. We need to start managing our forests. We need to put the funding in place to make that happen. And also we need to start deregulating some of our ability to do this. You have these lawsuits from environmental groups that are adding 4 to 5 years to forest management projects. It's just completely unacceptable, and a lot of the blame lies both with Gavin Newsom and with Karen Bass.
And I want to get back to the one thing I brought up at the top, because again, we've talked with you and people from ACC on this show before about climate change and how it is a real threat. But again, it's not a binary thing. It's not one reason or another we're seeing this. These are a combination of factors. So how does, if we're talking about climate change from your perspective, how does that factor into these sort of tragedies?
Look, the evidence is fairly clear that warmer temperatures caused by climate change are making these forests drier. They're making them more likely to go up in flames, and that is something that needs to be managed. At the same time, we actually have the very cheap, low-tech solutions that we know have worked for communities across the world for millennia, from indigenous communities to today, that we can be implementing. And sure, while make the problem worse, we know what we need to be doing to adapt to these warmer temperatures. It's clearing the forest, it's doing thinning, it's doing prescribed burns, and it's actually preparing our systems to be able to withstand these kinds of problems. We're not doing that, and we see the results.
I'm sure you've been in touch with people on the ground out there. I know a lot of people on the ground out there. It is devastating to see from afar, and regardless of where people stand politically on this issue, we certainly hope the best for the people of Southern California. Chris, good to see you again. Thanks for your insight on this.